late start. I'm not clear how,
Next step.
what's the next step, yeah.
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
So what I'm hearing from you all is that we are asking Larry to prepare something that gives us a fairly high level, options open projection of what it would take to change in 2015, 16, and 17.
Looking at 8 and
And
8,
so-
correct. Right, is that what?
Is that what we want?
Can I ask a
That's
quick
good
clarifying question? Since, Sandy, you were noting the Seattle and Lake Washington initiatives, do you know if they're looking at 8 or 8:30, just out of curiosity?
I'm not sure that they've
Not
locked
that far.
themselves into a time.
So I'll just say that, we've given some thought to this, really other than the timing, again, unless, depending on what level of programmatic and service level changes we're willing to implement, 2015 and 16, the options are likely the same. Aside from the fact that we would have a longer plan time with 2016 than we would have with 2015.
Comparisons is
We can certainly do that.
okay. Is that all right? You do put 16 into that.
Well, yeah, whatever.
I mean,
Whatever
I think
the-
they're the same.
Number 16
Right.
is a little bit different than.
I would think with the buses it would be.
Yeah, I think
Well,
there would be
the
a
other
difference in
possibility
2016 to purchase more buses because
that could be
Right.
the major, but programmatically,
Programmatic.
we're running the same programs
Right.
now until 2017. So again, it would come down to what program changes or what shifts in tiered start times we're willing to implement between now and then.
Can I ask a question? In the transportation fund, and I don't want to get too deep in this, I just want a clarifying question. Is there $4 million in the transportation fund, and we use $1 million a year approximately out of it?
I think there's about, where is this, Lydia, here? About 4.4,
Right, there too.
about 4.5 million in the TVF right now. And the way that it works, it used to work that the state you have your bus fleet, and the state would pay you on a 18 or 20-year depreciation schedule, so you get a depreciated payment every year. So the idea is that by the end of that bus's life, you've been paid enough money to go buy a new bus. The way it works now is the state pays you the entire amount at the end of the bus's depreciated life, so you get a one lump sum payment. So we have a plan in place for sequentially replacing our buses over a period of time as they age out. If we use those funds then to buy new buses, those buses go on the depreciation schedule, and we'll get money for them in 18 or 20 years. But in the meantime, as buses cycle off and need to be replaced, we will have spent the resources to replace those buses. So we'll need to be thinking about where are the resources going to come from now to replace those buses.
And the only different, so if we use that $4 million to buy new buses, if we wanted to implement this at an earlier date rather than a later date, we could budget into paying, essentially replacing those funds. Like, could we essentially borrow those funds for ourselves to replace new buses and then put money back in over the next several years to then build that back up again?
From the general fund?
Yeah, or I don't know what fund, but
You can certainly take the money from the general fund to purchase buses. You could not take the money from the capital projects fund to
right,
purchase buses.
and put it back in the
You
transportation.
can also run a transportation vehicle fund levy as was referenced in the survey.
Okay.
Until 2018.
But what I'm saying is we do have a lump sum of cash, and I hear what you're saying, that is earmarked, but we also do have a lump sum of cash where we could potentially go buy buses, and on the back end, that's kind of like borrowing from ourselves essentially, and on the back end, we have to replace that money.
Yeah, it's you're going to take your money you've got set aside for your mortgage payment, if
Yeah.
you're going to go and buy a new couch, you have to figure out how you're going to make your mortgage payment. So yeah, it's the same idea.
I have one last question. Our ATP program, I believe it starts at the same time as high school?
Which program?
The ATP.
No.
What time does that start?
It's Monday through Thursday. They don't attend on Fridays, and it's a longer day. So they're on a special ed. Oh, I'm sorry, it got flipped this year. And then they have special ed busing. So
Right, I understand that, but what time do they start?
Do they start on site or do they go to their job
Jen,
locations?
It varies from day to day. Becky, are you here?
Staff here, maybe we could get that.
I'm not speaking with any expertise, but they start at 8, either on-site a couple of days a week or off-site a couple of days a week. So transportation is a component regardless of which day it is.
Okay, I had a parent that appears to have some misinformation on that, but, okay, thank you.
So,
And we could look at the junior high and high school starting at the same time. They don't start at the same time right now. right?
So again, if we look at, just back up again, if we look at junior high and high school starting at the same time, that's the scenario where we need to upsize potentially 50 to 60 buses. Because right now, those two start times occur in tiers. The same buses that pick up, drop off, and pick up, drop off. If we're doing them all at the same time, we essentially need double the number of buses to be on the road to transport double the number of students.
I certainly agree with the idea of starting them at the same time, but I'd just like to get off of the torturous, horrible high school start time first.
Yeah.
Let's get that.
so Larry, what's a reasonable time frame to provide that information? I'm looking at our study sessions, which are very full.
Well, and if we're talking 2015, it's probably information that we're going to need sooner and that we would need to make a decision.
Which is why I'm looking at
Yeah.
the,
So
They might have to move a study session.
I would suspect if you're looking for high-level information, you know, I'm looking at Ryan here, I don't want to commit to something that we can't, but, you know, very high-level information of, here's the level of program disruption or program change we would need to look at to implement anything for 2015. I would imagine in a couple of weeks, we could probably have very high-level information put together. And it would be things like eliminating transportation for elementary band and orchestra, flipping high school and elementary start times, or, you know, those kinds of very big levers that could be, that would be reasonable paths towards something in 2015. And again, personally, I wouldn't recommend making any of those kinds of drastic changes between now and fall 2015, but, you know, we'll, just because, again, there are constituent groups that will be impacted who aren't attending to this conversation at this point. But, you know, that's what I anticipate a high-level plan that for 2015 would look like.
Yeah, I think looking
Is
to
there
start,
a high-level plan that you would recommend in 2015? Do you think, perhaps?
I think getting to a high-level plan that I would recommend for 2015 goes back to the conversation of what ultimately the board will find supportable in the face of constituent pushback on that plan.
So you're talking like 2 weeks, the 27th?
You know, I'd like to, before I commit to that, I'd like to huddle with Ryan and then.
and we could talk about that when we go up here, right?
Yeah.
Like, because we're having
A debrief.
we're debriefing
so we can,
this
maybe
conversation.
you can talk with Ryan. and-
Yeah.
Sure.
Amy has something.
Well, and I just, so I'm curious about the time frame about, per Sandy's point, about if we're going to ask the different reconfiguration task force to definitely, this is the go for 17,
So,
when we have to do that.
yeah, I think if we were looking at that, I mean, at least to come up with sort of a very clear set of parameters for what is and isn't acceptable in 2017, and if we could have that to our task forces by this spring, I think that would be really helpful for them.
So I think because I know that you're sensitive about time in this, that once we get it, we'll add it to a board meeting because we don't have study sessions that are available. For this, we'll add it as a discussion item on a board meeting.
And
So
we
that
could
we can be more
let the
timely
community send it out.
with it. Absolutely, it'll be on the agenda that we publish. Is that reasonable from your point of view? And I'll just ask if board members have any final thoughts before we
Do we want
study
to,
session.
again, this is not appropriate for a study session, does anyone want to take on the task of talking to other school districts about their initiatives? Or do we want to divide them up?
You know, I would think that'd be an exercise that would be tasked to staff.
Okay, well, that would be,
Staff knowing the right questions to ask, probably.
In addition, there's a piece of the conversation, just as a further piece. The large schools,
Task force,
no
work group.
caucus. I believe it's going to end up being a caucus because the person that dumped the organization on wants a caucus. But caucus is attendable by all of us. You don't need just one representative member. So anybody can attend the caucus. And then those meetings, this is one of the subjects that they're interested in discussing. I think that many of the large districts would like to find a way for this to happen and have further discussion as board members on that. So I could see our input would be really valuable to that discussion, and among many other topics. So that is firming up, and I think that it's pertinent to this interest for sure.
Could you get us their
Meeting
meeting
dates.
They don't.
Either way
Well,
that we
First, they have to
start,
actually firm that up.
Okay.
whether
You
it's
have
2015, 16, or 17, we're gonna be the leaders in this state, and I just think that's a really, I mean, we're all these other districts, including ourselves, have talked about this issue for a long time. I think for us to be able to, be the leaders and make the decisions, that we'll be able to set a model for what to do right and not to do. I mean, it's both, right? But we'll be able to set a model, and I think just what's happening in the state and around the country of people not pushing forward through it, this is a really positive thing for us. If we can make the decision and move forward, I just think that's, and we didn't have to spend $500,000 to do it. We spent 13.
Like Sarah said, good snacks.
And that's not to criticize another school district, I shouldn't be saying that, but
But they need to do
Keep
it.
track of staff time, you know.
I just think we could be innovators, and I think it's a positive thing for, it's gonna probably happen at some point anyway.
So I would not want anyone to leave this room believing that their program is in jeopardy.
Yes.
The board is having a possibilities conversation right now. There has been no discussion about anything that's going to be gone or cut or anything else. And I think that's really important for the community to note. I also invite people in the audience to continue to attend these conversations and participate in via email or however you want to. If board members don't have any other input, I think we'll call this meeting to a close. Early. And we do have a board meeting where we will be, you have